Excellent.
All right, so we're coming live.
Excellent. Well, hello.
Hello.
Addy, how you doing?
I'm good. About you?
I'm good. Good, buddy. Good, good. And we're here now.
Yep.
Welcome to REMarkTO, the real estate business sales marketing meetup in Toronto, the largest meetup in the city of Toronto, as far as I know, right? Largest
real estate marketing related, largest meetup.
Right now we have 2,424 members, and it's really exciting. And we talk about, every month we talk about some kind of marketing skills. We try to have experts in, or we do it ourselves because we're experts too. We try to share marketing and sales skills specifically to help people make more money.
Absolutely.
Build stronger businesses, make more money. That's what it's all about, right? That's the goal?
Well, hopefully.
Absolutely, that's the goal. That's the goal. That is the goal.
There has to be action behind it, though. Like we're doing all of these events, and if there are no actions behind it, you know, all of this effort and everything is for naught.
Well, that's absolutely true, Addy. And what we're trying to do, though, is we are sharing skills or platforms or information that'll help people, whoever chooses to take it, to do a better job.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
And selfishly, I learn something every month.
Me too.
So it's great to retune up, because the one thing about sales is it's just very similar to every other profession that there is out there. You can't be a professional football player and go out and play on the field unless you're what? Practice. Yeah. And you couldn't be in this you can't be in the theater and go up and they won't let you on the stage to start taking part in any kind of a theater thing unless you've practice for your
or memorize your lines.
Or memorize lines. Absolutely, absolutely. It's the same with everything. No one can be good at what they do if they don't do it regularly and practice doing it, right? Yep. And the one thing about preparing for these things every month is it really helps me to practice. Because I've been practicing for a month now on what we're talking about tonight. Yeah, and it's really cool. It's really cool. And oftentimes in sales, and sales is, I think, is a universal subject. If you and I happen to sell real estate, but there are people who sell mortgages, people who sell refrigerators, or people who sell carpets, or people who sell almost anything. If you're selling cars, a lot of the skills we're talking about here are absolutely transferable. They're absolutely universal.
Language is universal.
Language is absolutely universal, and making your language more powerful is the best way to be more persuasive and to be more successful in helping people make the decisions that they want to make. It's not about manipulating anybody.
That's correct. We talked about it last time too, because one of the things that is often considered about salespeople is that they're manipulative, but it is a profession where sometimes you have to push your clients towards making a decision that is in their benefit. And it's not, in my opinion, not manipulative. It's actually coercing your client. Coercing might not be the right word.
It's probably the wrong word altogether.
Since we're talking about language over here.
Sure, it's probably the wrong word.
So I guess guiding your client towards making a decision that is beneficial for them.
Well, that's your job.
Yeah.
That's your job. And it's your job because if you're selling refrigerators, you've helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people buy refrigerators. So you know the questions to ask. You know what families are looking for. If you're selling carpet, you know all about carpet. And the people that are coming in may like a certain color, but they may not be the carpet that's going to wear for them the way they want it to wear, or the carpet that's going to do the things they want it to do. As a real estate salesperson, I help people all the time buy houses, and I know that when a family looks at a house, they may not like there may be something about the house that they don't like so much, but overall, if it's a good thing for them, I have to help them recognize there's always compromises.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
There's always compromises, and it's our job, it's your job as a professional salesperson to understand how to help people make those compromises and feel good about the compromises by helping them see all the different sides there are to the equation.
Yeah. Well, our event today is sponsored by Agent Locator, so I wanted to give them a big shout out. If you're looking to have any internet website created for real estate agents specifically, they do a great job. I personally have, between you and I and my brokerage over here, we have four websites with them. Yeah. We've been pushing them a lot in our agents as well, and they've been seeing some great success coming in with that. So having said that, our topic of the day is language softeners, how to soften your language.
And this dovetails really nicely in with what we did last month. And if you didn't hear last month, or you didn't see last month, that's maybe, Addy, before we start, this might be a good time to talk about.
Sure.
The REMarkTO started as a meetup, a Toronto meetup, 5 or 6 years ago now. Yeah. I'm only guessing.
2012.
2012. Okay, in 2012 as a meetup, and we meet once a month. And we have done it. If those of you who've been following it, you know that we've tried a lot of different formats. We met at a bar on a brew pub on Bloor Street for 1 year, at Louis Cypher for 1 year. They were nice enough to give us their upper loft area. And we met there on a monthly basis. Had good turnouts. We had as many as 50, 60 people out at that, right? And then for a while we were at the Agile offices on Yonge Street above the Eden Center. And there too we had 25, 30 people come out on a good night.
Yep.
We found though that over time, and the folks the attendance has been dwindling. And I don't believe it's because of the content, because the content's always been exceptional. But the way the world has changed and the way things have evolved, there's a lot of content online today. So we are absolutely always doing these in a venue where the public is welcome to come. Mm-hmm. People are always welcome to come. However, what we're doing also is having this process evolve into more of a podcast than a live event for those people who it's not convenient to come out on the third Tuesday of the month, or they just don't want to come out the third Tuesday of the month. This content's going to be available online. Mm-hmm. It's going to become a podcast, and hopefully you'll share it with your friends, because this is content that's going to help people do a better job.
Absolutely.
Right? So tonight we're talking about language softeners. Last month we talked about the power of words. You may remember, if you don't, again, this is where we left off. We talked about, 7 or 8 words.
Yeah.
That
I can't remember how many words.
Yeah, that were absolutely used every day in everyday conversation. People use them all the time, and if you use them correctly, they can be very powerful in how you communicate with people. We talked a little bit too, and I think we should do this every month, is talk about the value of scripts, because scripts are absolutely critical to learning the proper sales skills and to be able to speak effectively. And people don't like using scripts because they don't sound like them. They'll say, that's not the words I use. I don't like the way these words are put together. It's not what I sound like. I don't like these things. I don't want to practice them. I don't want to learn them word for word, right? And they don't sound like you. They don't sound like me. They sound a little bit more like me now. Yeah. But they didn't sound like me when I started because I didn't talk very well. As a society, we've learned to really butcher the English language. I mean, we use all kinds of words the wrong way. And scripts help you to reconstruct the way you speak so that you can be more effective. Scripts are absolutely critical to being successful. But because there's such a resistance to learning scripts, what we've done and this conversation has evolved, rather than looking at a whole group of phrases to form a script, we've actually pared it down to started using one word. And we found 7 or 8 power words we tried to talk about last month that were very, very, very effective in communication. For instance, the word because. Yep. Using because in a sentence can have such a dynamic change to the conversation that you're having, right? Yep. It's absolutely amazing. Which was your favorite word in all the ones we talked about?
Oh, the butt.
You like the butt? Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. Well, butt's a magical word. Yeah. Right? And why is that? Why is that?
Just because you will remember everything after the butt. So if you want them to, like the butt flip, I really, really like, because if somebody says, "Oh, I like the house, but I don't have, I'm afraid I have bad credit." So what you can do is you can turn around and say, well, what I hear you say is that you think you might have bad credit, or you may have bad credit, soften that up, but you really, really love this house. So you're repeating back what they are already telling you, but in repeating it, you're also making sure that they are actually remembering what is good about it rather than the negative. So remembering the positive versus the negative. So creating a good feeling over there in regards to that. I really, really enjoyed that part.
That's right. But is such a powerful word. Such a powerful word. It takes a negative thought and blocks that out from the people's memory and helps you install the positive thought that they said. You're not making it up. You're saying, repeating what to them. But people tend to, as a society, we tend to use the negative at the end, and that's what we end up remembering. Yeah. Right? So but's fantastic.
Absolutely.
My favorite word is imagine.
And if.
And if. Oh, you like? Okay.
Yeah. So if and imagine, they're pretty much the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I love imagine because it makes the person you're speaking to move forward in time and see whatever you're asking them to imagine completed in order to see what it's going to look like, right? Mm-hmm. You can't imagine something without imagining being there, So imagine what it'll be like to sit around the pool in the summertime, even though that pool may be full of ice right now. Someone can't answer can't see themselves doing that without actually seeing themselves being around the pool in the summertime. It helps people appreciate something. Oftentimes you can use imagine to take people to a place that they really want to get to, but they can't get to, maybe because of the time of year or the time of day or who's with them or who's not with them. There's all kinds of things. And using the word imagine can really make that a lot more powerful statement.
Yeah.
Love those. Those are two good words. There's absolutely no question about it. But as we move forward into softeners, and what a softener is it's a linguistic, what do I got this here someplace? It's a linguistic tool that softens the tone of a message. It keeps things polite. It helps you to avoid offending the listener. And as we use our softeners, we can also use our power words, right? And so as we go through this conversation today, I hope we can find examples where we use the softener and then we use the power words as well. A softener will reduce the impact of a message. And why would you want to use it? Well, you'd use it because you don't want to offend anybody.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. We don't want to offend people, but we do want to build and keep our rapport, right? So if someone says something that you might disagree with, or that you just think is factually incorrect, or maybe you want to change the subject altogether, but you don't want to appear rude, you don't want to offend anyone, a softener is a great technique to use to try and do that, right?
Yeah, like the butt flip.
Just like the butt flip, just like the butt flip, Addy. If you want to change direction, the butt flip is a great one too. Yeah, or if you want to introduce new ideas. Softeners allow you to not agree, but also not argue with anyone, and that's really, really important. And the nice thing about softeners too is they don't require any kind of a response, and they're typically accepted without any kind of argument or any kind of question at all.
So why is that important?
Well, because it's that's what makes it the softener. Because it's a statement that you'll use normally at the start of a sentence or normally at the start of whatever idea you want to work into your conversation. And once you've said the softening part of the sentence, people aren't going to say, oh, I don't think that's true, or there's not a question they have to answer. It just kind of just slips right into the conversation, into their subconscious, and it's just readily accepted.
So is it wise to say that it actually slides right into their subconscious?
Well, I don't know that no, I think more it would be it opens the door.
Okay. It
opens the door. The softener is the mechanical part of the sentence. It just takes the listener's mind and opens it up a little bit. And it's really cool the way they work. Some people use the phrase they're artfully vague. And a softener can help change minds elegantly, as opposed to arguing with people. You can use a softener to help people see the other side without being argumentative.
So, asking questions, for example, would that be something that would be considered a softener?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's but absolutely asking a question is a softener, but it's possible to soften the question. Okay. So, and that's the thing, because sometimes, like let's say, for instance, it depends on the question. And actually, that's a great example. I think our first example is why, right? Yeah. So if someone says something, if you're on a sales call or whatever, and someone says something and you just want to understand better. It doesn't necessarily mean you want to argue with them. If you ask why, simply asking why can make people defensive. Yep. Right.
Why is a defensive question, right? Because a lot of times salespeople say don't use the word why. Like sales trainers, a lot of the sales trainers will actually say that don't why, what, when. So when is good. Why is the main one that they say don't use. What is you want to get to the bottom of it, and when is the timeline. You're looking for the motivation, but why actually speaks to why somebody believes somebody.
Exactly.
Something.
Yeah, you're questioning their belief, right?
Absolutely, yes.
And you don't want to do that, or it's possible to do that without making them be defensive, right? And a great way to soften the why is to use the word curious. I'm curious.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah. I'm curious. If someone says, I think that this is a really great time to this is a time I shouldn't sell my house. You might ask the question, I'm curious. Why would you think this might not be a great time to sell your house?
Yeah.
Right?
I'm curious. Why do you think? That's very interesting.
So all you're doing is repeating back what they said. Yeah. But you can soften your questioning instead of saying, "Why don't you think it's a good time to sell?" They're going to feel like you're questioning their judgment, right? They're questioning their opinion, and that's exactly what you don't want to do. You want to try and soften it by saying, "I'm curious." Another way to soften that why question is to say, "I'm wondering." Yeah. I'm wondering. I'm wondering why that might be, or just even what's your opinion, what's your opinion? I'm curious, what do you think your opinion is?
I'm curious, what do you think your opinion is? That's interesting. So, can you put it in context? So let's say I'm not looking to sell my house right now because I think the market is bad.
Sure. So I'm curious, Addy, what makes you think the market is bad right now?
Because I'm seeing market in the news, everybody talking about prices are down 35%.
Sure. Okay. Good. So then you see it. So then now we're having the conversation about the market, right? And you're not trying to defend it. You're explaining to me, right? Yeah. Instead of me saying, well, why do you think the market's bad, or being argumentative about it? Yeah, exactly. Instead of being argumentative about it, right? You might say I think I've got bad credit. I think I've got bad credit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. What makes you think you might have bad credit?
Yeah.
This
goes back to our butt flip stuff we were talking about before.
Okay. Bingo. All right. So how would you work that in? I think I'd like to buy a house, but I think I've got bad credit.
Well, I'm curious. What makes you think that the market is bad? Sorry, your credit is bad.
Okay, let's start that again.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to buy a house, but I think I've got bad credit.
I'm curious. What makes you think that you have bad credit?
Well, just the history that I have, and I've missed a couple of credit card payments, and I'm afraid to look into it.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that you think you may have bad credit, but you really, really love this house.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so that you can, if someone says something that isn't positive, right? You can soften your question of them to have it explain it, and then the next step is to use the butt flip to send it back to them so they remember the positive side of it, right? Because even people with bad credit may not be able to buy a house today, but that doesn't mean they should never buy a house.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So our job as salespeople is to help them get over that hurdle. And a lot of times it's the fear, especially with credit, it's the fear of finding out, or the fear of having the world think you're a deadbeat, or all those things, right? So being able to use your language skills to soften and understand, and then use a butt flip to carry it into the more positive spot, then the next sentence might be, well, maybe we should get together and make an appointment to get together to explore.
Yes.
You don't know. Maybe you do.
They could be 6 months away from buying their house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the relationship that you as a salesperson can build in delivering that kind of help is absolutely powerful. Absolutely powerful. You can use a softener as well to soften bad news. Soften bad news. It's oftentimes, now, depending on the market, there's bad news. Lots of times it's necessary to deliver some kind of news that people aren't, they're not going to be really happy to hear, right? And so a softener could be a question of, what's your home going to sell for? And if you, rather than just saying, your home's going to sell for this much, or you have to offer this much, or you
have to list it for this much.
Exactly. Yeah. Rather than just telling them what they have to hear, what you think they have to hear, you can soften that by saying, it's important that you know.
Yeah.
It's really important that you know that your house is going to sell for X number of dollars, right? Or it's really important that you know that that right now the market isn't as strong as a lot of people think it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes, if the market's off by 35% in the Toronto Star, right, it's right now, there's going to be people that you're going to talk to about selling their house tomorrow that don't believe that.
Yep.
And they're going to think it's still 2 years ago when everyone was getting $1 million over ask, type of thing, right? So it's important that you know the market's changed since the last time we talked.
Well, and also one thing I want to point out, we're using real estate agents as an example over here. Your house will sell for X amount. This is just as true for, let's say, a mortgage broker that has to communicate that your client is expecting to get a mortgage approval for, let's say, $500,000, and you only have $400,000 available. So you would say your mortgage approval or your approval is $400,000. Instead of saying that, you'd say it's important for you to know that the mortgage approval you obtained is for $400,000. So it actually softens up the language.
Totally.
Yeah, and then as we were talking before, language is convertible to other professions. So language remains constant in the middle. So it's important for you to see how you can fit these language skills inside your own occupation.
Well, sure. If you're selling refrigerators, you got a family that just came in and their fridge is broken, they really need a new one, and you can't get the one they want for a week and a half. You say, listen, it's really important. It's going to take a week and a half for you to get this refrigerator to be delivered, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a nice way to soften bad news. Another way to do that is to say I hope you know. or you may or may not know, right? You may or may not know it, but the interest, as of January 1st, the mortgage industry, as of January 1st, 2018, the mortgage industry has changed dramatically, and it's a lot harder to get mortgages now. There's a lot more like the testing and the qualifications are a lot harder than they used to be. So we have to revisit that, right? And that's a way to deliver a message that people aren't necessarily going to want to hear in a way that they don't get angry with you about it, and they understand that it's necessary to make a change, right?
Absolutely,
sure,
yeah.
Sure. You may or may not know. It's important that you know. Someone might say it's important. I wrote this one down coming in today. You may or may not know that now is a hard time to buy because, and this one needs some power words here. Now is a hard time to buy because all the competition and lack of inventory, but I've got a strategy to keep you aware all the time so you won't miss any opportunities.
So they'll forget everything before the but. Meanwhile, you're acknowledging what they're saying, and then what you're sliding in is that I have a strategy for you to keep you updated on what's going on in the market.
Sure. Yep. So you deliver the bad news in a softened way, and
you wipe it off.
Yep. And then you build a strong, positive message at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. That's very, very strong. What are the keywords that we have from yesterday, from last time? We should actually point those out. So we had now, we had please and thank you, using the name. We also had don't,
yep.
and means.
And was one. That's right. And
means. That's right. Should have put an and in the beginning somewhere.
Maybe so. Yeah, absolutely. So it's almost. I guess what we're really doing is we're deconstructing scripts without looking at a specific script, right? Because every one of these, what we're doing right now are building blocks to a strong language, and scripts are just strong language. That's all it is, right? So it's by using the softeners in this case, to introduce or bring attention to something, then you can introduce a topic, soften it, and then at the same time move to the next thing that you want to talk about in a positive way, so that the person you're speaking to gets the message that you want to send.
Yeah.
And you can help people move through a process they don't understand very well, and take the good with the bad, but not get blown away by it or really put off by it.
And move them very positively too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the one thing. That's the one thing that is very, very important. One of the reasons I love scripts, and I think that's what differentiates professionals from amateurs, in my opinion. In any profession, people that are using scripts that are very, very good in their language skills, that can persuade people in moving forward. So if you're not investing time in your language, I think that's the biggest miss of your career. So if you're in the sales business, if you're in any business, if you're not investing in yourself, language being one of the big things that you should be investing in, it would be a shame.
It'd be a real shame. It'd be a real shame. One of the most important parts of it is absolutely it'd be a real shame, and actually that leads us right into the next part of it, Addy, the loss. Mm-hmm. You can use a softener for loss. An example would be, and I use this one. I use this one a lot. You're working with someone, and we're again for a housing example, right? Mm-hmm. You're working with someone, and because the market's the way it is right now, there's not a lot of inventory, and people have to at times move faster than they'd want to. And you've worked with a family for a little bit. You've shown them a number of houses. You know them well enough. You know what they're looking for in their new home, and you've looked at one, and it's the right house.
Yep.
It's the right house, right? And they know it's the right house. You know it's the right house, but they're concerned about moving too fast. They'll say, well, we want to think about it for a little while. We just don't want to, we're afraid to jump too quick, type of thing, right? And in a situation like that, it's important as their salesperson, as their helper, as their expert, in the business, it's important to help them understand that, sure, it's great to take the time, but it's important too to understand the realities of the world that we're living in right now, right? So if someone says, I want to think about it for a little while, you can say, I understand. I understand that you want to take some time to think about this. It's a really big decision, and I would never tell you need to make an offer today. Mm-hmm. That's not my job. I wouldn't do that. and and this is a life-changing decision that you're making, and it's important that you feel comfortable moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also important to recognize that the market is very tight right now, and this house meets all your criteria. It's in the right location, your kids get in the right school district, which is very important to you. We know the price is good because we've looked at a number of homes that are similar, that's in the right ballpark price-wise, and wouldn't it be a shame if while you're thinking about it, another family comes along and can make that decision today, and tomorrow it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So just be prudent and think about it as fast and move forward as, when you're ready. I'll be here for you.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, so it's a non-pressure, like you're not putting pressure on them, but you're pointing out some of the obvious things.
Sure.
Basically, that there's somebody else that can come along and make an offer on it. The house matches what they're looking for, and you're coercing them not coercing them, you're generally nudging them to move forward.
Helping them understand that if they don't, they may lose it.
Yep.
Right? And wouldn't it be a shame? And again, it's almost like imagine. But instead of saying, imagine someone else bought it, when you're saying, wouldn't it be a shame, as soon as you say that, they have to try and picture whatever the shame's going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the disappointment's going to be. So wouldn't it be a shame if another family came along and could make that decision today, and they bought the house?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they have to imagine another family doing that in order to say, yes, that would be a shame. And I've never, ever used that language pattern and not have them go, yeah, that would be a shame. Because it would be a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not trying to get someone to buy the first house they look at. In this case, you're always trying to help people make the right decision. And in order to do that, it's already a house they want. It checks their as many boxes as they can. And another, just for what it's worth, another language pattern in that conversation could be: would it be reasonable to expect to find a better one?
Mm-hmm.
We've looked around a long time. Is it reasonable that we might be able to expect to find something better than this? And that's, the chances are no. And but you can soften it first by, wouldn't it be a shame? Wouldn't it be a shame? So to introduce a softener, to introduce a new idea, or change the direction of a conversation. This is a great one. Just interject in any place. Oh, one more thing.
One more thing. Ooh, one more thing. I just dropped it.
So try that, Addy. Just try that.
One more thing. I don't know in which context should we want to put this question now. One more thing. Could be anything about the area that you want to bring back to their attention. Basically, one more thing. Did you know that your favorite restaurant is just down the street from here where you guys went for your anniversary? So that's one more benefit that you're bringing to their attention than they might have overlooked before if they're looking at a house.
Sure, again, it could be you could be writing up an offer,
mm-hmm.
and you might say, one more thing we need to bump, that we want to think about bumping the deposit.
Yep.
Put you in a stronger position, right?
Yep.
Or one more thing, the water heater's a rental. Maybe you forgot to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
It's there's all kinds of places just to interject it, right?
Yeah. So this is introducing anything good or bad too.
Absolutely. It's just a way of softening, a changing of the subject, really,
mm-hmm.
or just a new idea. Absolutely.
Oh, so this is more of a direction change. Am I right? So this is
it could be.
Yeah.
It could be a direction change. It could be an addition to the same. Like maybe it's a big yard, and you could have a pool, and there's enough room for a soccer pitch. Oh, and one more thing, you could put a swing set in the corner too.
Oh, that's true. Yep. All right, that's good.
It's a great one to work with. Another softener, another conversation that you want to soften is time resistance. And I have to one more thing, Addy.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you that I think some of these slides may be a little screwy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So just as we go through it, right? Because when I was driving in, I did it late last night. I dropped the box. I put it in the drop box. Anyway, so softening time resistance when you're making a warm call or a warm or a cold sales call, or when you're calling an associate or other service provider, when you're calling a client, right? When you're calling someone and you're not afraid, but you
hesitant.
You're hesitant, and you might think because you think you might be a nuisance to them,
mm-hmm.
right? Particularly with cold calls or warm sales calls. A lot of salespeople have a real resistance to doing that because they're afraid they're intruding on people, right? And they're afraid that they're interrupting people, and they're afraid that as soon as their people are just going to say, I don't want to talk to a salesman right now.
Yep.
I don't want to do that right now. A great way to solve that problem is to start off by saying, I know you're busy, so I'll keep this brief. You know, Bob, I know you're busy, so I'll keep this brief, and then ask the question you want to ask, or talk. You know, the market's changing, but I just want to let you know. Whatever the case is, it's a great way to buy yourself 30 seconds of conversation, right? It's a great way to do that. Now, this podcast is being broadcast in March of 2018, but in March of 1991, when I was a new salesperson, a relatively new salesperson, computers didn't exist. And we didn't get internet leads, and as much as wonderful as Otto is and Agent Locator is, you know, there was nothing for them to do because computers didn't exist. Cell phones didn't even exist at that time, right? So as a salesperson, our primary tool was a telephone, and from a real estate perspective, from a lot of perspectives, our advertising vehicle was a newspaper, right?
Yep.
And so an awful lot of the time, 90% of the time, your new leads, your lead generation was done through print advertising, and you encourage people to phone you, like call you on the telephone.
There was no email.
There was no email.
No text messaging. No. Can you imagine a world?
Well, it's true. It's true. And at that time, people couldn't get the price of a house online. You know, they couldn't. After a lot of times, agents didn't put the price in the newspaper. Sometimes they didn't put the address on in the newspaper because they were trying to drive people to the phone to call them, right?
Yes.
And that sounds really archaic, and I get that. But the bonus of that was this. When the person called you, they knew they were calling a real estate person.
Yes.
Right? And they knew they didn't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Right? So when you picked up the phone, when someone called you, you had literally 5 seconds to start building a relationship.
Yep.
If you didn't have telephone skills or language skills, all you would do is answer their question. They'd hang up. You'd be dead in the water.
Yep.
Right. If you didn't have language skills, you didn't eat. It was as easy as that. The internet's made it a lot easier, like to make those connections. But so now people are getting the information, but we've lost the ability, or we've lost the foundation of growing those skills out of necessity. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why people are getting lazy with their language.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think it's also because text messaging is very prevalent, so people don't have to keep modulating their voice, or they don't have to use the right words, and they can use abbreviated sentences.
Yeah.
And that's how the younger generation is talking to their clients nowadays, or to their agents nowadays, and it's becoming the norm, so nobody has to even work on it anymore.
That's absolutely correct, Addy. But there's no reason why some of these softeners can't work in text as
absolutely,
well. Right? You know, they should be. When I know it's awfully easy to write a text in some kind of a script that only you understand.
Yeah.
You know? But the softening, and one of the biggest, again, let's face it, email and text are one of the primary sources for misunderstandings among people as well, because they don't necessarily understand. The person who's reading your message doesn't understand exactly the tone or the intention you might have had. So, using the softeners can be very beneficial there. Yeah. Some of them, like the Curious one, is a great one for that. Yeah.
I've used the Curious one before. I actually used it this morning. I got a call from. I didn't get a call. I got an email from a client that inquired about a property sometime back in 2012. So we stayed in touch over the years. Never heard from them, but I never let go. And yesterday I got an email from them saying, "Oh, we're looking to purchase now." I'm like, "Great. I'm curious. Why did it take you so long to figure this out?" Basically, in so many words, asking them what has changed for them to come back now, and scheduled to meet with them for tomorrow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
And basically what you have to do is, one of the things that I would like to point out is that you have to basically set it up right from the beginning. So for me, it was, I'm curious to know what has happened that has changed, that you have changed your mind. Would you be available to meet with me tomorrow in one, like, this is the email that I sent, and they said, yep, I'm available after 9:45 a.m. Whenever you want to, just let me know.
Sure.
And we're going for a meeting.
I'm curious is always better than why in any format, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no question about it. The last thing you want to do is argue with people, and sometimes people just take it that way, whether you're arguing with them or not, right? It just makes it hard. Okay, so moving along?
Yep.
Moving along. The pacing. See, that's where I got the same when cold calling the scales, the screen's mixed up. Anyway, pacing is a phrase that is used by linguists, I guess would be the word, that reflects a time. It reflects a time, and so pacing by itself is a way of bringing people into the now. You gonna sneeze?
I was going to, but I'm good. I had to turn the camera off. I don't want to sneeze so loud.
Okay, that's good. Let's go. You can sneeze. So pacing is a way of bringing people into the present, and that can help people to relax by recognizing or honoring what's actually happening at that particular moment. It's a way of reflecting on what's happening at that particular moment, and it's kind of like a grounding thing, right?
Yep.
And in our particular business, helping people buy and sell houses, it's I use pacing every time I present an offer. I'll use the words as we sit here now, right? As we sit here now, we're here to review an offer, right? You know, and just take a couple of minutes just to help people become grounded, because it's a very exciting and nerve-wracking and intimidating time, right? And if you're working with someone and you feel that they're moving too fast, or they're becoming intimidated, or they're becoming excited, a good way to pull them back and help them reground themselves is just to say, well, wait a minute, you know, as we walk along this path, you know, or as we're looking at the backyard here now, kind of thing, you know, what do you know, when you think about your children, you know, playing in the backyard, and it's important for you to be here, and you wanted, you know, you mentioned to me that you're looking for a place where your kids would be comfortable bringing their friends to, type of thing. You know, you just use it as a way of just pulling them back in instead of getting all excited about something, you know.
No, that's very, very strong. So is this similar to future pacing?
Well, no. It's other than that it has the word pacing in it. Pacing by itself is bringing people into the now. Okay. Future pacing is helping people move into the future.
So that's when you're using imagine and if, those words.
Those words will do it. Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, we're going to be doing. We can use a softener to future pace as well. Okay. And we'll do that in a few minutes, I think. But it's pacing is a great way to soften people's anxieties. Okay. I guess that'd be with their emotions, you know.
Yeah, just calm them down.
Just calm them down. Pull them back and just help them calm down. And help them focus as well, right? If someone, I read one of the negotiating books I read, they always say, when you sit down at the table, outline what it is you're supposed to be doing. Yep. All right. Outline what it is you want to get done. And that's great. And if you want to sound like an army colonel, you can say, okay, thanks for coming into the office. We're here to sell your house. We're going to work on this offer and negotiate it. But it's the softer way would be to say, thanks so much for coming in. Sit down. This is a really exciting time. I know it's an exciting time. We're here to review an offer, and we've been on the market for a little while, and someone wants to buy your home, and it's just great. We've been, you've worked so hard to get it ready, and help them just calm a little bit, right, and center. And we're here to talk about the offer, and the goal is to sell your house. Let's not lose focus with that. And
the buyer has agreed to buy your house.
Exactly, and that's a great way to move forward. Oh, did I go the wrong way? Sorry. Oh, another way to pace. Maybe you've noticed, or while we're driving to the next home, and you can use a softener to make a statement a question, and it'll allow you to say something that the subconscious mind will hear as a statement, but the conscious mind will hear it as a question. So, even though you're telling people something, they won't feel like you're telling them. And it's a really good strategy to use when you want to. When you want to bring something to their attention that probably would make you seem pushy if you just said it, or make you seem a little negative if you said it,
Disclosure.
Right? Argumentative. Yeah, exactly. Disclosure. Absolutely. One of the great ways to do that is to use the phrase, "Has it occurred to you yet?" Has it occurred to you yet? I'm not sure there's or have you noticed that? Have you noticed that there's a little water stain in the ceiling? Have you noticed that? Or has it occurred to you yet that you've got a fair bit to do before you can list your house? Yes. I know you want I know we found a house you want to buy, but has it occurred to you yet that you got a whole lot to do to clean up that house you're living in? Before we put it on the market. And that's a way of saying, well, you're living in a dump. You got to be careful with that. You got to be careful just how you say things like that. You got to catch up here. So making a statement a question is a way for you to make the statement you want to make. They'll hear it as a question, and they won't feel like you're being aggressive with them or giving them instructions, because that's not your job, right? But as a professional salesperson, it is your job to steer things along. Right?
You have to move forward.
You have to move forward, absolutely. And you can also use softeners to make a statement. And this is. especially when it's a self-serving statement or an aggrandizing or something that'll make you look like a braggart, really. You know, like there's one that I have used oftentimes when you're talking to someone and they'll say, "Oh, we love our home. You did a really good job, Dave. Thanks so much for what you've done, all the rest of it." And then I'll say, "Well, you're welcome. But isn't it nice to know that you have an expert or you have a friend in the real estate business who's going to be there for you all the time?
Yeah.
He's going to be, and any of your friends or family or people that are important to you that could use my help, I'd be there for them the same way." Right?
Love that.
I know, I love it too. And
I want to refer business to you.
and they'll say, "Oh yeah, it is nice to know. I love knowing that, Dave." And it's absolutely true. Like isn't it nice to know that you've got a friend in the real estate business? Or isn't it nice to know that I know all these contractors that I can line up, whatever, and then you leverage that for looking for an introduction to someone else, right? Or looking for a good review on an agent review site or whatever it might be, right?
Yep.
And it's a great way to soften you. Well, bragging, for lack of a better word, I guess. But isn't it nice to know that it's possible to do that?
Yep. I really like that.
So you can also soften things with a softener is universal wisdom. That's when you want to imply that what you're saying is accepted by everybody. It isn't just your idea, and so that way, if you're having a conversation with someone and they have a limiting belief of some sort, like it's how do we word that? All agents are the same, right?
Yeah.
All agents are the same. Or all home inspectors are the same.
Yeah.
Or all whatever's the same. And you can soften that by saying, well, experience shows they're not. Experience shows that a qualified expert real estate agent in this market is going to help you buy a house for less money.
Yep.
Or type of thing. Or experience shows. That's a great one. Experience shows the that if you're buying a house in this neighborhood, you're going to pay X number of dollars or whatever, and then you're not just it's not just your opinion you're throwing out there. You're saying like experience. You're bringing in the experience from the universe, right?
Yes.
And it's accepted that way. It's heard that way.
That's very interesting. So experiences could be facts about marketplace, or it could be your own personal opinion.
Yep.
So anything. It could be anything.
It could be anything at all.
Yeah, but just saying experience shows. It changes it. Now, how is it? This is pretty similar to one thing that we use is the feel, felt, found concept.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's the feel, felt, found. Like I understand how you feel. A lot of my clients felt the same way, and when they tried out my technique, they found that they were able to take into consideration. They were able to take into consideration. They were able to find that they can save money when they're buying real estate.
Sure.
When using my services.
Absolutely, it's a wonderful. The feel, felt, found formula is a wonderful language pattern that definitely softens resistance and moves people into helps people see things from on a different side, right? And so often, and all we're doing as salespeople is like using our language skills is helping people see the other side of the coin, right? And too often people get stuck on one side, and we have to try and without using always the word but, flip them over to see the other side, and find a way to make it all make it so they can when they make a decision, they're making a truly informed decision and not just one that's biased by their particular opinions. Right? Yeah, and that's really important. That's really, really important. That's the universal wisdom. Experience shows, Addy, that when you do that, it works really well. And now we're going to talk about future pacing.
Oh, there we go. That's what we're talking about.
Sure. Maybe I should have had them stacked one on the other. And that's helping someone see forward. And again, it's using. And when you do this with future pacing, there's absolutely no resistance.
Yeah.
Because you can't soften anything as a future paced statement without the person automatically doing it.
Yeah.
They have to move forward and do that. So what happens when you imagine, right? What happens when you imagine? Well, they have to imagine it. Yeah. They can't not imagine it.
Yeah, right? I actually started trying to imagine.
I saw that, Addy. Or how do you feel when you imagine? Yeah. Like you can't make that statement to someone without them actually going to wherever you're going to put them and have them imagining that. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to like it there. That doesn't mean they're going to want to buy it there. But you can. That's a great tool to use if it's the wintertime and you're showing a house with a beautiful yard, or you're showing a cottage that has on a lake and it's all snowdrifts, and you want to have someone imagine watching the kids fishing over by that island.
Yep.
Well, as soon as you say that, they have to see a summer day, they have to see the kids in the boat, they have to see the kids fishing, right?
Yep.
And oftentimes, having them see themselves there will help them get over whatever resistance they're feeling that particular day because of circumstances they can't control, right? If the kitchen's too small, the kitchen's going to be too small. But if it's a really cold day, or if it's a rainy day, and you want to think about a barbecue on the patio, you can ask them to imagine seeing the barbecue on the patio. Then they have to do that. But if the patio is too small, it's always going to be too small.
Yep.
That's not going to change. But some people, in the same way that, I don't know what your experience has been, but I've often found that people can't look at empty houses.
Yeah, it's you have to help them.
It's really hard for people to see furniture in an empty house, right? They'll go into a bedroom that's a big 12 by 14 foot bedroom and think it's too small for a bed, and it's people just can't see that, right? So it's important to that if you're showing, to be aware as a salesperson that if you're showing things in the wintertime as a summertime house, help them see that.
Yeah,
no question.
Well, this also goes for any agents that are working in downtown Toronto and you're showing condos that are vacant. It's a very, very important point for you to know exactly how many feet of your steps does it take for a bed, because you're going to have to sometimes measure and show them that you can fit a queen-size bed in there. I have done that.
Is that right? You've done that. You've done that. I do, as you know, an awful lot of my business is stone homes, right, all over Ontario. I do stone homes, and I always say to people, I say to sellers, my buyers are buying Christmas morning or a summer barbecue.
Yeah.
That's what they want to buy. Right? They don't want to buy a stone home in October. That has no appeal to them at all. Or springtime, that has no appeal to them at all. It's going to be roasting a pig in the backyard, or it's going to be Christmas morning with the fireplace going. That's what people buy. And when I'm showing them, I have to help them see that by saying, what do you imagine, or what do you see when?
Yeah, it's a classic gingerbread house.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's very important. Or what do you see, right? What do you see when you imagine that, right? And that is, experience shows that if you can manage to master these softening speech patterns, you'll be a more effective communicator. There's no question about that. Experience shows that very clearly.
And I believe you.
I know you do. And those are language softeners.
That's awesome.
How long? How much time? We've been here for almost an hour now.
Yeah. We've been here I think 40 minutes or so. But that was amazing. This was really, really good. So if you haven't seen the past episode already, definitely go check it out. It's 6 of 6. This is 7 of 6. So we said initially it was going to be a 6-part series.
That's right.
And now we're just trying to stretch it and see how many more episodes we can get into it. But the idea behind the whole thing is that we want to give you skills that you can use on a regular basis, on a daily basis, to help you do more, make more sales, make more money, and have a career worth having. Basically, if you are not enjoying your career, there's definitely something missing in you. Don't blame the market. Don't blame outside factors. Look at what you can do different so that you can achieve the results that you want to achieve in your life.
Absolutely. It's really important that if you want to enjoy sales, it's important to develop your language skills, and that's what we're doing here. We're having fun with it because that's the way to help people better. And when you help people better, you make more money, and when you make more money, that means your family enjoys what you do more too. Yeah.
No, this just reminds me of Jim Rohn and what he talks about to become more valuable. So you want to earn more money, become more valuable, and that's one of the biggest problems that we have in the industry.
I love that story of his. That story where he says when he first got a job, and he said the guy said to him, "Well, how much you make?" And he said, "Well, that's I make whatever it was, $10 an hour." He said, "Well, why don't you make more?" And he said, "Well, that's all they pay." And he said, No, that's all they pay you." I'm sure there's people that make a lot more than that. He said, "Well, there are." He said, "Well, then you have to become more valuable, right?"
Absolutely. So, and this goes out to all the agents and anybody else that is working out there. If you are complaining about the money that you're making or you're not making enough, look at ways that you can become more valuable. The more valuable you become in the industry or to your customers or to your marketplace, the more valuable you become, the more income you will make. And it's a guaranteed fact. So one of the ways that you can become more valuable is investing in yourself. So do invest in yourself, take some courses, subscribe to our channel and stay on top of what we have to talk about next. Anything else you want to add?
I just want to add that as a salesperson, never apologize for making money.
Thank you.
Never apologize for trying to make money. It's my goal as a real estate salesperson is to make as much money as I can, ethically, morally, and righteously, all that stuff. I want to make as much money as I can in the time that I spend dedicated to being a real estate guy, so that I can have as much fun as I can have in the time that I spend dedicated to having fun.
Yep.
And I try not to have, there's a line there. I try not to have those one cross over the line, right? I tried and I don't apologize for that. In fact, just this week I was with a lady and a seller, and she was trying to beat me up on my price and on my commission. And I looked at her and I said, look, you have to understand, I don't do this just so I can eat.
Yep.
You know, this is how I make my living. And if you don't want to pay me, that's okay. I can find, you know, if you don't see value in what I'm doing, then I wouldn't expect for you to pay me. But let me show you the value that I bring to the table, and then you can make an informed decision. And if I'll walk away from a deal before I'll work for nothing, and I don't apologize to anyone for that. It's
you shouldn't have to.
That's and that's what we're trying to share with people.
All right. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Agent Locator, for providing us with the internet and all the goodies that comes with it. And hopefully we will see you all in a couple of weeks.
Right
Take
on.
care. And
Cheers.
we'll talk soon.